The preview of the favorites, Kentucky Derby 2017. Kentucky Derby 2017. The preview of the favorites. The 143rd running of the Kentucky Derby is upon us, but it's crucial to remind ourselves at the outset of any Derby week that each and every one of those blistering 2-minute duels stretching back for the better part of a century and a half brought its own version of chaos to the fans and players of its day. This year's 20-horse field is very much not last year's top-heavy field. Remember Nyquist, anybody? Exaggerator? In other words, 2017's owners and trainers have brought us a kaleidoscopic array of equine athletes with many different patterns of talents and defects to ponder. Right this minute nobody has anything more than a frail set of odds, bits and shards of workout gossip, and a handful of theories about past performances of some very fit, if not entirely steady, young thoroughbreds. We'll know more after Wednesday afternoon's draw, which is another way of saying that we'll possibly have a better whiff of where the money might drift on Saturday, but not much else. It's going to be a gut-wrenching week of handicapping, with multiple competing trigonometries at work. The only thing we can now actually know is that the gods of uncertainty will definitely rule uncertainly. For now, to begin separating the wheat from the chaff in the class of 2017, we'll call on the Bluegrass Wise Man TM, a Kentucky horseman and owner who has been so generous to us in past years with his deep backstretch analysis. As a lifelong horseman, his gift is to bring us new ways to think about the big races, from the Triple Crown to the Pegasus, by helping us to remember some very old ways of thinking, namely, the reality of racing for a horse. Feverishly measuring their various talents against one another in the run-up to a big race, we can sometimes forget the actual, individual athlete. We'll hear from the Wise Man TM later in the week as well, but as a kickoff, we've asked him to run down 5 of the early favorites in the Derby class of 2017. Disclaimer: the Bluegrass Wise Man TM has no horses running in this year's Derby. Let's take a look at Classic Empire. Bluegrass Wise Man TM. Classic Empire is obviously going to be one of the top favorites. He won the Arkansas Derby, but he had the bruised foot, and they took him off to Ocala to a training center. I think the question is whether, at the Derby, the top of his head is gonna pop off. I mean, can he hold it together? I know he's a strong favorite, but there's really no other way I can put it. We'll see what the money does as the week rolls along, but he just seems sort of erratic. Give us the wiki on McCracken. Bluegrass Wise Man TM, bit steadier. He's number 2 on the Derby qualifying points, but both McCracken and Classic Empire only have 2 races under their belts this year, which is sort of the new trend, by the way, not to race them heavily at the beginning of their 3rd year. You could say that these are the top 2 horses this year, but really everybody thinks it's wide open. What's interesting about that is that it's good for breeders. Good horses can come from a whole bunch of different directions, meaning sires, to get here, and this year's crop is proof of that. You're not doing this in any particular order, are you? Bluegrass Wise Man TM, no, and that's on purpose. It's about what the horses are telling me. Tapwrit, for instance, is one that has to be considered. He's a son of Tapit, and he's a Todd Pletcher trained horse. Pletcher has had a great Gulfstream season, and beyond that Tapwrit is a big, good-looking horse who could be there at the line. Any good backstretch gossip on Gun Evero? Bluegrass Wise Man TM, working well in Louisville. He was 2nd in the Florida Derby, he tries hard, and he's there every time, so I can't poke a lot of holes in him, even though not being able to say much that's negative is not quite the same thing as saying something hugely positive. He won the Saratoga Special in August last year. He's got a great jockey. He's a son of Dialed-In, who was a leading sire last year. I've always felt like Gun Evero could matter. How he matters is going to be his question to answer. Last thoughts for today? Bluegrass Wise Man TM, wait, one more horse. Always Dreaming won the Florida Derby, and again, he's another Pletcher horse. But I feel like he's emerging, in other words, he may not be there yet. He likes to get out front, and yes, he won the Florida Derby, But the question about him is, show me you can do it again. Did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, or is it just the big field getting to you? Bluegrass Wise Man TM, you better hold on to your hat. It's gonna be a rough ride.